What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and this is an update to the deck vlog series. You remember that from back in May of 2023? A lot's happened since then. You've seen a handful of photos over social media, but I figured I would just go ahead and give you guys sort of, I grabbed a collage of pictures of everything from back in May of that year through recent to just kind of give you an idea of what was happening and what happened. And because I'm sure people want to know, we just saw 2 videos and then nothing more. So this is kind of a catch you up to more recent times. So let's go ahead and just dive in. I realize this isn't my normal content. This isn't for everybody, but let's go ahead and just kind of go through some pictures. So this here is back in May, and this is actually not even the main footprint of what was the deck. This was just like one of the many ancillary decks, because this, you can kind of see here, this is the main one. Another thing I should point out is that in those original videos, we were going to do, starting off with, I said so many different things in those original vlog videos. We were originally going to just do Trex decking. Then we decided, we were going to maybe go to a screened-in porch. And then we decided, well, if we're going to have a roof over it, maybe we just go to more of like a 3-season room and then actually just put traditional flooring down as opposed to like decking. And it's evolved quite a bit. So we've landed more, and you'll see as we go through these pictures, on a traditional kind of 3-season room. And I had a lot of back and forth about how I was going to attach a roof, and a lot of that will all make sense here in a minute. So anyway, here is me taking out the existing kind of joists that were there, kind of just taking some measurements to get ready for future joist placement. And here you can see we have all of our kind of support beams and things in place. And then we are starting the process of laying out the floor joists with ladder blocking and stuff to add stability, but also prevent any kind of twisting. And you can see we are resting on 4 different beams here. So a lot of support on this, and these are all 16 on center. These are 2x8s on the ground here. Or maybe they're 2x10s. I don't remember. I think they're 2x8s, just looking at the size of things. So here you can see significant amount more of 2x8s have been put down. Again, with a variety of, resting on multiple beams. Here I am taking measurements oops, apparently that broke in the middle of the thing there. We're going to go ahead and jump back to that. All of the beams are pretty much down at this point, or at least a large majority of them. And now I'm taking measurements for putting down the 3/4 inch pressure treated plywood, which is going to serve as the subfloor. All right. And again, more added, cutting out some plywood. It kind of was an awning that was above the back door. This obviously has to go because there's no need for that in this room. So I went ahead and ripped that out and had to just temporarily reroute a gutter till we had a new roof put in place. And then here you can see we're jumping ahead to framing of the walls. So here you can see we've got the corner walls sort of framed out here, held in place with a ratchet strap just to make sure it doesn't warp or rack. Adding in more of the outside walls here. We're in snow time territory here. You can still see there's snow here as we're prepping and building out our outside walls. 2x6 framing. All right, here we have the general stick framing with all of the studs. Nothing to do with any of the king or jack or the jack studs yet at this point for the windows. There's Adam being real cute in a chair. And here I am basically starting to build out the window boxes and starting to install headers for the various windows. A little bit of rain here, doing a header above the door, looks like. Or no, I'm sorry, that was above a smaller window. Here you can see a little more general idea of what the layout is going to look like. Again, more work being conducted. This is what I ended up doing for attaching the roof, is we added additional support blocking, full resting on the entire house. It turns out it's built on 2x6 framing. So we added in 2x12 blocking behind, cut away the texture 111 that was there, and then added 2x6 support blocks, kind of like a miniature, almost like a knee wall resting on the positive areas between the 2 floors. Thankfully, it's not balloon construction. So we had the different floors. We're resting on top of that. And then we have our 2x12s in there to just add additional stability and strength. And they're actually double stacked 2x12s to add, to kind of help span that gap so that we have plenty of meat to pull into for upper ledger board attachment. And here you can see I've moved on past from the right here to move into the middle sort of chimney area, and we're reflashing and house wrapping everything there, adding in more of our upper ledger boards, as you can see, using ledger locks and things at various states. And again, this all is on the engineering plans that I generated and had stamped off by an engineer that this is going to be the attachment method. So no issues here as far as that goes. Here I am just having to be a little more careful as we do have electric in this area, adding in more. By the way, this scaffolding has been invaluable in this project. So adding in more support blocking here to help protect, and you can see the kind of the double stacked blocking there for attachment of upper ledger board, doing a little planning, I guess. And here you can see we have the entire ledger board all the way across the top for attachment of our rafters, all using 2x10s, 16-inch on center for the rafters to connect with kind of ledger joist hangers here. And again, we have hurricane ties out here on the outside end with several instances, again, of that ladder blocking to add stability, but also prevent racking and make sure everything is the proper width apart. And you'll see several instances of this, of me just in various points throughout the day and night, adding in additional blocking to add more rafters on here. Again, more of that as we go along. Now adding the outside kind of, it's not like a rim joist. I guess it's kind of the equivalency of a rim joist. I forget what the terminology is for that. But this is significantly later after I've added in all of the zip system roof sheathing on the top here. This was fun to get a bunch of 4x8 sheets, over 8 to up towards 10 feet in the air. Built kind of a sled, and then tied rope around the boards and yanked it up onto the roof up the sled to kind of lay it in place. And then obviously went and taped everything down. And then for an extra level of security, I went and used Zip System liquid flashing to cover up all of the nail holes to just make sure we had plenty of coverage as far as waterproofing goes. Here's me grabbing more stuff to be able to make things here in the car. Okay, so here you can see now that we have the whole roof up, we're adding in additional support blocking for this sort of triangle here above the door. Another thing that originally we were going to do is just leave the vinyl siding on the house. And then I said, it kind of would look weird and maybe almost unfinished to just have vinyl siding in this kind of finished and eventually, like sheetrock drywalled room. So I said, why don't I take off all the vinyl siding and then we can build a whole brand new, like traditional 2x4 stud wall here. So we can add outlets in it and we can just drywall it and have it kind of have a more finished look. So here I started taking off the house or all the vinyl siding. My favorite thing is, maybe you can see it over here, is that for taping cuts in the house wrap, the old homeowners decided to use U.S. Postal Service mail packing tape. This is the U.S. Postal Service logo right here because they used mail tape instead of house wrap tape. I guess it probably serves the same purpose, but I just thought that was funny. Started to put on the zip system sheathing on the outside of the house, and to ensure that I had no issues when it came to cutting out the windows, I put up all of the zip system in full sheets, then drilled a little hole in the corner once everything was set in place, and then used a straight bit on a router to just route out the exact space so that everything matches up perfectly. All right, this was repairing some issues on the chimney where water was leaking down below the roof line, but down in towards the floor, which would not allow me to put any kind of finished product on there. So I had to fix what was going on with the leaks in the upper roof. Again, and now we have just a little bit of an idea of what everything looks like. We have the zip system on. We have several windows cut out, as well as several windows installed. Here's, again, the other side. Installing more windows. Here's the double kind of French doors that we installed in the one area there. And this is actually something I'm really proud of. I made these windows out of PVC and UV resistant and like UV sustainable acrylic. So I actually routed out a thin channel and then cut this piece of acrylic to the exact size needed, and then kind of used it to form a window. And you can almost see it doesn't even look like there's glass there. It actually still looks like that to this day. But I made 2 sets of these windows on both opposite sides to just allow us to, because it's not structural here, to just add in extra light to the area. You can kind of see here's one of the window boxes here. Here's a Dora. And then there's another, I built another one right over here. And you can see I've also put up all of the fascia, metal fascia material to cover up the outside edge on both sides. Here I am building the second lower half portion of that dual window. And then this is just adding some more blocking in up here. Here I am actually putting the metal roofing on, which is also something I'd never done before. And you can see I just repurposed the sled that we used right over here that was used to pull all of the zip system up to the roof. Well, I repurposed this again with that rope and moving it over and laying the, what is these, like 18 or so foot long pieces of metal roofing onto it, and then pulled it right up and then moved it over. You can also see I added an ice and water shield to the outside, 36 inches, and there's also a drip edge there as well. Here's a Dora looking very cute again, and here I am just continuing on attaching the metal roof. Metal roof is now on. I moved on to building a set of stairs for the single door here, and then again framing out where we're going to pour the concrete, digging down to add pressure treated supports to the bottom of it with all through locks on there. And then again, a ton of rebar and chairs in there to add stability to that concrete pad. Here is the pad poured, still waiting for the framing. Again, all feathered out and brushed and added in the decking stairs there. Added in our single door. Went ahead and cut out the areas in the shear walls here for these side light windows here to just add a little bit more extra light. And then again, here you can see here's the door, the windows, there's the side lights over on the side, and then here's the full upper area of the dual homemade windows there. Here's the stairs that come out of the double doors over here. Here's a little bench I built next to this set of stairs on the one side, because right off of that, you can't see, like right over here in the near future is a plan to build a full concrete, stamped concrete patio, as well as a koi pond. And then here is me starting to frame out that 2x4 wall I was talking about, so we can be able to add outlets and sheetrock to that inside wall that's kind of shares the shared wall between the 3-season room and the house. More framing. This is seamless gutters here, and this is obviously this is a little janky with the this sort of cover up soffit PVC. We're going to actually add a piece of trim along here to cover up and hide that. But I've also added the this F channel here to hold it, but that's also to help meet up when we get to footing up the vinyl siding. So yeah, as you can see here, this is everything all cleaned off in preparation for the upcoming building inspector visit to do our framing inspection. I'll tell you, I am absolutely terrified because I've never done anything where we've ever had like a full inspection. Now, I obviously went and submitted the plans to the town, pulled the permit from the building inspector, so it's all on the books. I have till August of this year to complete the framing inspection. To complete the whole building, everything entirely. So the way it goes is first comes framing inspection, which is handled by the building inspector. If they complete that and everything looks good, then we can move on to electrical inspection, which is done by like a third party. If we move on from there, then the only other follow-up inspection post the electrical is the final inspection after everything's kind of been wired in. The electrical inspector comes out, checks the voltage, make sure everything's run properly into the panel and otherwise. If that's all good, then the building inspector comes out after the walls are all closed in, and then we get to go ahead and move on to completing and closing out the permit, and then, it's down to decorating and final touches and things. So currently, I am in the process of waiting. I have a couple days here. The building inspector will be coming out. Again, I'm absolutely terrified. I've done a lot of work on houses, but it was always like the house I grew up in or a different, family member's house or something like that. But I never had done anything where I got to the point where I pulled permits for it and had to worry about, like, what other people think. Now, I'm pretty sure from what I've seen, I've drastically overbuilt this thing and designed it as such to be like this thing can withstand, I don't know, 80-mile-an-hour hurricane winds from the sort of high-level hurricane hold downs and things I've added to it. But I've never done anything like this. I've heard that our inspector in our area is kind of a stickler, so I don't really know what's going to happen. But yeah, I will update you guys with a future video once we've had building inspection or framing inspection, and I'll let you know whether we pass or fail. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.